was lashing out at other kids early in my school days. I was a bully on the bus. I beat up the kid with the thick glasses. I beat up the kid who wasn't as big and strong as I was. And I did it because I was angry, and I also did it because I was bored. There was nothing that school presented to me that challenged me. And it's not for lack of trying. It was just nothing ever connected with me. That feeling of frustration and anger and the need for excitement, but very early on it became apparent I was an adrenaline junkie. When I was a very tiny kid, my mom would find me out of the house and 50 feet up in a tree somewhere, just looking thrill seeking, so to speak. And unfortunately, this thrill seeking expressed itself through violence more and more as I grew older. In middle school, I would get in fights regularly. I got to the point where I really enjoyed physical combat. I liked getting hit. I liked hitting other people. And I especially liked the consternation and the frustration of my teachers who would shake me and say, "Why are you doing this? You're such a smart kid. You don't have to, hurt people. You don't have to act like this." And it's ironic now that I find myself shaking other teenage kids as I'm going around and working with kids. And I'm saying the same thing to them. And I'm trying to think, how am I going to reach them when these other teachers failed to reach me? And I think the key to doing that, and not saying that this was lacking on their attempt, but I think the key to doing it is to be open and honest in your communication especially with children, but in all communication that you do. I started drinking when I was 14, realizing my birthright of alcoholism and diving into it with abandon. I very soon established, and even by that time, my entire life, everywhere I went, people noticed me. Everybody knew who I was. Some people loved me, some people hated me, but there was very few people that had a neutral opinion on Arno. And that was magnified once I started drinking, because I'd show up at parties and people were getting wild, and I would be the wildest. I would make the most noise. And I was really constantly on the lookout for how to take things farther, how to be more antisocial, how to further remove myself from my family that was stressing me out so bad, and further remove myself from the society that I despised, no matter how many attempts it made to embrace me. In this kind of frame of mind, I discovered the punk rock scene of the late 80s. And at the time, it just struck me. I was like, this is it. I remember putting a needle on a record by a band called Fear, and hearing the F-bomb liberally dropped left and right, and I was just like, yes, they're swearing on the record. And I took that attitude of F you society, and I just embraced it. I was kicked out of Summerfest once for having a shirt that said, "I don't need society, F you" on the back, spelled out. And I saw the punk rock scene as a means of lashing out, as a means of fights. And to me, that's what punk was all about. It was about not caring about anything. It was about destroying things. It was about aggression and rebellion and anger. And at that time, the late 80s, the punk movement was kind of in its second go-round after it had sprang up in the late 70s. And like almost all counterculture elements, there's little kind of genres within that movement. And a genre that sprang up in the late 80s was something that we called peace punks back then. Now the peace punks, we listened to the same music, and the peace punks looked just as dirty and crazy as we did. But the peace punks had this ridiculous idea, as far as I was concerned, of caring about stuff, of being activists, and about pointing out things in society that they felt were wrong and unjust, and acting out in protest to that stuff. It's also ironic now that a lot of the peace punk politics that I despised back in those days, I now very much agree with, and I find myself marching side by side with peace punks and protest marches and things like that. But at the time, I saw peace punks as a threat to what my vision of the punk rock scene was. And in the late 80s, there was an issue with Coors Brewery, where Coors was not hiring black people, or they were accused of some sort of unfair hiring practices. And these peace punks would say, don't buy Coors, they hire black people. And I really didn't care one way or another if they hired black people, but I really wanted to enrage the peace punks. So I would buy Coors beer exclusively, and I'd drink it in front of the punk shows and get really wasted and, you know, scream at them, obscenities at them while wearing my Coors hat. I was in that frame of mind when I was introduced to the skinhead movement.